Hi, this is Marta from Ruby Soup with Pearl Juice, and today I'm giving a gush-filled review of Feathers by Jacqueline Woodson. Jacqueline Woodson is an award-winning author of both young adult and middle grade novels. I just reviewed her young adult novel If You Come Softly, which I loved. I loved this as much as I loved If You Come Softly. What this book does so well is that it's very much a slice of life novel that follows a young black girl called Franny, and it's showing her life with her family, how she deals with bullies and a new kid at school. And by showing this very slice of life story, then the book is able to tackle a lot of really complicated issues such as race and class and disability and hope and fate, and it's just amazing. This book packs so much. And what even makes that even more fantastic is that this book, despite that it's written for children, it doesn't talk down to children. It talks to them with respect, and it's very honest about how children feel and think, and it doesn't dumb down things, and it really shows that kids are actually not stupid, that they understand a lot more than what adults give them credit. And whenever I come across a middle grade book that is able to do that, I just love that. It is the greatest feeling in the world. This book takes place in the 70s. There's a new boy who the class starts nicknaming Jesus Boy. And the conflict kind of comes in that Jesus Boy is white and all of the other kids in Franny's class are black, and they've always had this assumption that the black Americans live on one side of the track and the white Americans live on another side of the track. And despite that the civil rights movement has at this point taken place in America, it's still very much a segregated world that this book is depicting. Despite that none of the adults really say it out loud, then the children kind of sense this injustice and this stigmatization and systematic racism that the black Americans still have to deal with. And in many ways, to this day, is showing like how the different kids react to it in such different ways. Like some of the kids think that, oh, but if we still work hard, then things can get better. And then some of the kids are very cynical and say like, no, like white people would never come over here and hang out with us. That just would never happen. And it's very interesting to see how, children are individuals and how they have such a vastly different way of dealing with this racial injustice that is so present in their lives. And another thing that this book deals with really well is that, as I mentioned, we follow a lot of Franny's home life, and Franny has a deaf brother, Sean. And this book is really honest in showing how much stigma Sean deals with. A lot of people consider him odd and make really weird comments about him, and a lot of girls who hear, then they end up giving him the cold shoulder and being very unpleasant towards him when they find out that he's deaf. And I thought that was really interesting, how the book was very honest on how cruel young people can be towards people with disabilities. To Franny, using sign language and having a deaf brother is completely normal, and she doesn't quite understand how everyone around her considers it abnormal. And I thought that was just really fantastic. We are a very able-bodied normative society, so then we automatically see disability as the abnormal or as the non-normative thing. But of course, to people like Franny, that's the norm. There's also the depiction of bullying in this book, and that again is really nuanced. Sometimes the person who is the bully ends up being the one who is bullied, and the one that has first been kind of like picked on can flip the tables and do very cruel things to other people. There's also a depiction of Franny's mother who has suffered miscarriages, and There was a baby called Lila who was the firstborn in the family, but then died at a very young age. And the book is showing this ongoing pathos and melancholia that the mother has from these experiences. And the book depicts them in very frank and very, like, non-sentimental, but still not sugarcoating either ways. And I liked it that there was actually a depiction of a family where the mother is suffering from a form of depression, and there has been tragedy in the family, but they still are there for each other and they still are a functioning family despite hardships. And I think like that's so important to see in children's books, that even if your family is maybe not like happy or like happy in the way how society says that it should be, then they can still be a very loving, healthy family. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is actually the themes of hope and faith in this book. I'm an atheist myself, but the way Christianity is talked about in this book is really nuanced, and there's a lot of talk about faith as in a form of hope. Like, when is it reasonable to hope for something, and when is it not reasonable to hope for something, and how does faith function in everyday situations? Franny is seeing all this injustice in the world and thinking that hope is maybe not all that much of a realistic option. But then this book ends up in its own way showing that human kindness is actually not as rare as we think. Even if you're an adult reader, then you can find the message in this book really uplifting. And whether you're religious or an atheist, you'll find people to identify with in this struggle, and I think it can speak to actually anyone. So that was all of my thoughts on Feathers by Jacqueline Woodson. Have any of you read this book? If you have, comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe. You can even like me on Facebook, and I'll talk to you later.